Tonight, Fox 4 Investigates dedicates a series of reports to our ongoing commitment to cover the state of white supremacy, anti-Semitism, and extremism in the Sunshine State.
We had a lock over here, a stone was thrown at it.
After a Cape Coral Jewish center was attacked as Saturday services were ending, became one of the most recent examples in the rise of hate.
Specific action needs to be taken.
Fox 4 Investigates examines social media links to what anti-hate experts say is leading Florida's anti-Semitism explosion.
The terrorists themselves had Facebook page.
And it doesn't stop with our Jewish community. Our homeless communities are also being attacked. Tonight, the search for solutions continues as Fox 4 investigates the state of hate. It was a normal Saturday inside Cape Coral's Chabad Jewish Center back on March 11th. As services ended, Rabbi Yossi Lepkowski and the 8 others with him heard a noise.
He's just picking up the stones and just throwing it out the door.
Police say those stones were bricks, leaving behind a trail of damage before they say the suspect drove off.
But still no arrests. Yeah. Concerns?
A little bit that the person is still out there.
The rabbi concerned, but no less committed to his faith.
And will continue to serve God.
When I spoke with him 2 weeks ago, 1 month after the attack, and then last Friday,
Cape Coral Police Department made an arrest.
Police announced 51-year-old Marin Mark Raymond's arrest after what the chief called a complex 41-day investigation.
It shook the confidence in the core of our community. This isn't something that happens in Cape Coral, but we can't say that anymore.
Investigators say Raymond told them he worked for the CIA, believing Jewish people were conspiring with the government to stop medical marijuana.
It's stunning to me when you see kind of how brazen many of these crimes can be.
Anti-Semitism is as old as the Jewish people.
Overall, nationally, a new American Jewish Committee survey finds 41% of American Jewish people say they feel less secure compared to a year ago. That's a 10% increase from the year before. The most recent FBI numbers show while nationally there were about 3,000 more hate crimes year to year, or a 12% increase, those involving Jewish people increased by 20%. Florida was above the national trend, according to the Attorney General's office, with a 16.5% increase in hate crimes.
Work more closely together to get rid of whatever the anti-Semitism and hate kinds of things are.
After Jewish Federation of Greater Naples president and CEO Jeffrey Feld says he's personally seen the rise of anti-Semitism impacting himself and others in his community, he calls his relationship and communication with the sheriff's office critical.
It's paramount to the success of thwarting hate and thwarting those kinds of things.
A key piece of this is what's happening online, where more than 2/3 of Jewish people told the AJC they'd experienced anti-Semitism. 85% of 18 to 29-year-olds say they've seen it on social media.
Where they can easily spread their ideology that way and find connection. Does that concern you?
Social media today certainly complicates it and makes the hate much more readily available.
Just horrific.
The American Jewish Committee's regional director, Brian Lipton, says his group is calling for a broad-based approach to fight anti-Semitism, including increased corporation training, more security at Jewish venues, and a national anti-Semitism strategy. But he tells me more work needs to be done.
One thing to say anti-Semitism or hate is a bad thing. It's another to know what to do.
There was hate, there was anti-Semitism, there was terrorism before social media. It existed then, it exists now, it's going to exist in the future, and we need to do everything we can to stop it.
The more we educate our children, the more we educate our friends, the more we educate others, we'll see that there's no room for hate, there's no reason for hate, there's no reason for this anti-Semitism.
The AJC found 40% of American Jewish people have changed their behavior and stopped going to some Jewish functions because they don't feel safe. Now, the common thread in our series of stories continues to be social media, and that is where our investigation heads next. Ryan Kruger, Fox 4 Investigates. A night of terror in the City of Light. On a Friday night in Paris in 2015, 130 people were killed in a series of coordinated terrorist attacks. One of those victims, Noemi Gonzalez, was killed while she sat in a bistro with her friends.
See the pain that my wife is going through? and hopefully this will change the internet.
8 years later, Gonzalez's family is suing Google under the Anti-Terrorism Act before the U.S. Supreme Court. They allege Google aided and abetted the recruitment of ISIS members by allowing videos on YouTube and is therefore secondarily liable.
We just want people to understand, and we're looking for justice.
The case could decide the future of the internet. Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act provides immunity to websites like Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram for the content that is posted to their site.
Every terror attack begins and ends on social media.
Nitsana Darshan-Leitner is one of the lawyers suing Big Tech. Fox 4 Investigates spoke exclusively with her just days after she argued in front of the Supreme Court.
What you're describing sounds like a social network for terrorists.
Thousands of posts calling to kill Israelis and videos illustrating how to kill and how to stab the knife and how to twist the knife, at what poison to put on the knife before going and kill. The terrorists themselves had Facebook pages.
The tech companies argue they constantly screen their sites to keep terrorists off. In a statement on its website, Google says if they lose the case in the Supreme Court, quote, it would impede access to information, limit free expression, hurt the economy, and leave consumers more vulnerable to harmful online content. Darshan-Leitner says that harmful content is so widespread right now, it's becoming normalized.
If you're seeing it everywhere, does that run the risk of people will think there's nothing wrong with it?
They spread the ideology on Facebook. They make it normal.
For months, Fox 4 Investigates has shown you the dramatic rise in anti-Semitism and extremism online.
These folks are weaponizing those platforms, and they're really creating harms.
That connection has gone from the online world to the real one. When the Anti-Defamation League released their report on hate in the Sunshine State last year, they told Fox 4 Investigates they were shocked to learn how closely various hate groups have started working together.
What we've seen is a lot of groups that in the past may have worked separately from one another are now working in conjunction to spread propaganda and hold in-person demonstrations.
Darshan-Leitner says the interconnected web of hate is making life too dangerous for too many.
The way the terrorists are using the social media is as a tool that they never had before and cannot do without.
The Google case is one of two similar but separate cases right now in front of the Supreme Court. That other case claims that Twitter allowed the terrorists to spread their ideology, which the social media company denies. The Supreme Court is expected to release the opinion on both of these cases in the coming months. Ryan Kruger, Fox 4 Investigates. The silent surveillance video spoke volumes to the daily struggles of Florida's homeless women and men, including Miami's Norris Gaynor. In 2006, two teenagers, Thomas Doherty and Brian Hooks, who are still in prison to this day, killed Norris Gaynor. During a self-admitted alcohol-fueled rampage, they also beat two other homeless men. Nearly 2 decades later, police say a violent attack by these three suspects outside the Fort Myers library left a sleeping homeless person badly hurt. No arrests have been made.
We've seen a number of cases where the homeless individuals have been targeted, and it's a unique class that I think hate crime legislation could address.
That's exactly what happened in 2010, when then-Governor Charlie Crist signed one of the first laws in the country that considered crimes against the homeless to be a hate crime.
It largely is due to the large homeless population in the state.
Dr. Seth Fallick, who studies hate crimes and criminal justice at Florida Atlantic University, says Florida's laws could be a national model.
Warrant greater conversation on the national stage in terms of being a population that should be served by hate crime statutes.
A 20-year study from the National Coalition for the Homeless found more than 1,800 incidents of violence against homeless people. Florida had the second most in the country during that time, behind only California.
We have a wait list every day. It's hovering around 120 people.
Steve Bruder is the CEO of St. Matthew's House, which operates 2 homeless shelters in Collier County.
It's a very vulnerable group that we're talking about.
You're alone, you're on guard, you're vulnerable. And there's a lot of mental illness. I think there's more mental illness among the homeless population and more drug use. It's a very vulnerable population that is fearful.
So fearful, Bruder says, many no longer reach out for help.
You think your average person sees somebody's father, somebody's son, somebody's daughter?
There's a detachment generally in society. It's we've set apart that class that, well, they're homeless. And lots of times society says, well, there's nonprofits that will help them. There's somebody that will help them. So that's our job.
The National Coalition for the Homeless says violence against homeless individuals will continue unless there is true accountability for crimes against the homeless. Ryan Kruger, Fox 4 Investigates.